Have you ever turned the key only to hear nothing? Or maybe just a weak click? Today, we're diving into what to do when your car won't start. Whether it's happened in your driveway or out on the road, I'll guide you through each step so you can troubleshoot like a pro. 1. Listen and observe. Start by listening closely. When you turn the key, pay attention to any sounds. If you hear clicking, it often signals a battery or electrical issue. If there's silence, it could be the ignition switch or starter. Even if the car doesn't make a sound, the dashboard lights and radio can provide clues. Is anything lighting up or working? For instance, if your dashboard lights flicker or seem dim, it points to a weak battery. A single click often suggests a starter issue, while repeated clicking could indicate a drained battery. Take a moment to listen to what your car is trying to tell you. It might be silent, but that's a message too. 2. Check the battery, pop the hood and examine the battery. Look for corrosion on the terminals or any loose wires, as these can disrupt the electrical flow. Step by step, inspect terminals. Ensure they're tight. Wiggle them to see if there's any play. Test voltage. If you have a multimeter, test the battery's voltage. Ideally, it should read around 12.6 volts when fully charged. If it's below 12 volts, it might need a jump or replacement. If you don't have a multimeter, try using jumper cables to see if it starts up after connecting to another vehicle. 3. Test the starter motor. The starter motor is responsible for cranking the engine. A failing starter can produce a clicking sound, especially if there's not enough power getting to it. If jump starting doesn't work, try tapping the starter lightly with a wrench. Sometimes this temporary fix can dislodge a stuck component inside the starter and get you moving. This isn't a permanent fix, but can help you start the car and get to a mechanic if necessary. 4. Check for fuel issues. Next, check if the car is getting fuel. Often overlooked, fuel issues are a common cause when a car won't start. Here's how to troubleshoot it. Action steps. Fuel gauge. Make sure the tank isn't empty, as sometimes faulty sensors can give a false reading. Fuel pump sound. Turn the ignition to the on position without cranking. You should hear a soft hum from the fuel pump. If it's silent, the pump might not be working. Fuel filter. A clogged fuel filter can prevent fuel from reaching the engine. If it's been a while since your last filter change, this could be the culprit. Fun fact, did you know that modern cars have a fuel cutoff switch for safety? Sometimes a minor accident or even a sudden bump can trigger it, cutting off fuel to the engine. 5. Inspect the spark plugs. Spark plugs are tiny but essential. Without a proper spark, the fuel-air mixture won't ignite and your engine won't. Here's what to check. Action steps. Visual inspection. Remove a plug and look for carbon buildup or wear. Gap check. Make sure the spark plug gap is correct. A too wide or too narrow gap can prevent ignition. If you notice any black soot or oily residue, that's a clue that the spark plugs might need replacing. 6. Examine the ignition switch and key fob explanation. Faulty ignition switches or dead key fobs are common issues in modern vehicles with electronic starts. If the car doesn't even attempt to crank when you turn the key, this could be the issue. Action steps. Key fob. Check if the key fob battery is dead. Replace the battery and try again. Ignition switch. Turn the key to the accessory position to see if the dash lights come on. If not, you may have a faulty ignition switch. Pro tip, try using a spare key if you have one, as sometimes the key itself can be the problem. 7. Diagnose with onboard diagnostics, OBD2. Many modern cars have an onboard diagnostics, OBD system that can pinpoint the issue with a simple scan. Here's how you can use it. Action steps. Locate the port. Plug an OBD2 scanner into the diagnostic port, usually under the dashboard. Scan for codes. Look for error codes that can indicate specific problems with your engine, sensors, or battery. For example, a P0300 code means there's an engine misfire, often related to spark plug or fuel injector issues. 8. Check the fuses and relays. Sometimes a simple blown fuse or bad relay can disrupt the entire starting system. Action steps. Locate the fuse box. Use your car's manual to identify which fuse or relay controls the ignition or fuel system. Inspect for breaks. Look for visible breaks in the metal wire inside the fuse and replace any that appear damaged. Replacing a fuse is a quick fix and costs next to nothing, but it's often overlooked. 9. Evaluate the security system. Anti-theft or immobilizer systems can sometimes interfere with starting, especially if the battery was recently disconnected. Action steps. Reprogram or reset. If your car has an anti-theft system, consult your manual for reset instructions. Observe any warnings. Many cars show an icon or indicator if there's a security lockout. Pro tip: if you've disconnected the battery recently, be prepared to reset the security system, as it could prevent the engine from starting. 10. Wrap up. Final thoughts and tips. Let's recap the essentials. Listen for sounds, check the battery, inspect the starter motor, ensure you're getting fuel, examine spark plugs, check the ignition switch, scan with an OBD2, check fuses, and lastly, confirm the security system isn't blocking your start. By tackling each of these steps, you'll not only save time, but potentially avoid unnecessary repair costs. Diagnosing a car that won't start can be daunting, but taking a methodical approach like this can make a huge difference. Next time you turn the key and hear nothing, take a deep breath and run through these steps. Soon, you might just be back on the road.